Hi, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Vikings Now. And now what do the Vikings do? We've got a problem. And I know everybody's going to go, what could be the problem this week you two have? Ahmad usually is here to throw in, but for some reason, that's a problem. And he somehow had important things to attend to. I'm sure he's working on an exclusive story that you'll see later on Fox 9.
That I can confirm nor deny.
The problem is, what do we do with Sam Darnold? Each week, everybody's going, oh, you guys are ripping Sam Darnold. He's delivering us wins. He's delivering us wins. Now, he's got 11 straight touchdown passes with no picks in the last 3 games.
Who said we were ripping Sam Darnold?
Oh, the commenters. Well, here comes one right now. Oh, look, you can see it right there. Oh, look right there.
Do they even listen to this show? I mean, over the last 2-3 weeks?
I've been pushing for more.
Well,
but I'm going back to my original premise in what?
Well, the offense.
You can go back to the 3rd episode of this or after week 4.
No, very early.
I said you needed to extend Sam Darnold so you have more options. In other words, if he's good, like he is, you could, one, keep him for another year. So my idea was to extend him one more season. Up his pay this year, give him a hunk of money for next year, and then don't give him a no trade. Then you can either peddle him if JJ looks good over the summer, or now Daniel Jones is in the mix.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great.
Well, hey, that's what everybody said when Sam Darnold signed here.
I know that everybody,
$10 million. Everybody's like, oh, God, what are we doing with that guy?
I know that everybody wants to paint Kevin O'Connell as this guy who will revitalize just about any quarterback that'll walk through the door, and I know he's obviously done a good job.
He could get us on 2 touchdown
No,
day.
he couldn't. No, he couldn't. And I don't know if there's any helping Daniel Jones, to be perfectly honest. Daniel Jones had one good game in his entire NFL career, and it just so happened to come against the Minnesota Vikings. So I'm not ready to anoint Kevin O'Connell just the savior of quarterbacks from across the board. But in terms of Sam Darnold, he was absolutely phenomenal today. He's going to win NFC Offensive Player of the Week. I mean, I'd be shocked if that didn't happen. 22 of 28, what is it, 347, 5 touchdowns on the day. Just absolutely sensational football from
0 picks.
That, to me, is the most important part of the entire equation, because if you give the ball away, give your opponent an opportunity to come back and score on you, you're not going to win very many football games. And Sam Darnold has been doing an absolutely phenomenal job of protecting the football. Remember the game against the Jets over in London before the bye week, where it started to look a little bit shaky. Turned the ball over, didn't look great. The offense didn't look great. And from there, it's been a little bit of a up and down. What do we have? Okay, I guess they're getting by. Is it enough? I'm not sure. But over the last 4 weeks, it's been MVP caliber football from Sam Darnold, and the Vikings are in a great position right now at 11-2.
All right, let's hear the comments. So what do you do with Sam Darnold? Do you keep him? I mean, he'll walk away and you get nothing, at least by signing Daniel Jones. And if he leaves, the Vikings will get a compensatory pick for having him here. So that was a genius no-lose situation by having him here, whether you decide to keep him as your backup to JJ next year or whatever you decide to do. But what do you do with Darnold now? Do you let what could be I don't think he's the MVP, but let's not go crazy, but one of the better quarterbacks in the entire NFC just walk out your door and you have nothing for him?
Well, let's take a step back real quick. And I'll ask you the question. Since you asked me all the questions, it seems like I'll ask you one question. I like to,
because then they yell at you and not me.
I'll ask you one question here on the podcast, and it's a question that I asked Jim about half an hour ago upstairs. Is Sam Darnold a franchise quarterback? Yes or no?
With this cast around him, and with that coaching staff, and Josh McCown's in there too, because the thing about this coaching staff, and this may be the thread why O'Connell is so good with quarterbacks and McCown, is because they were both backups, and they never really hit it. But they're kind of like the guy in baseball. Like Ron Gardenhire as a manager was this bit player. Tom Kelly was a bit player. And they turn out, because they spend so much time with the coaches and on the sidelines and in the dugouts, they accumulate knowledge. And because these guys were in the NFL and they know what hurdles held them back, right? I mean, you were told, like the story O'Connell told this week about Randy Moss.
Yeah.
When he threw a pass to Moss in practice when he was with the Patriots, and he said it was just like end over end wobbling duck, and Moss just batted it down. It wasn't even worthy of him catching it. So, I mean, you have these in the back of your mind, so you kind of know what this guy that's been kicked to the curb has had to deal with. And so you maybe have a strategy of how to build them up when we know they had the talents, they have the physical tools. It's up here. They have to think the game. Darnold has to think the game. That's where quarterbacks excel. All these guys that are in the NFL, Daniel Jones included, have the physical attributes to get the job done. But because it go from here to here, that's the misfire.
What I heard in all of that was no. He's not a franchise quarterback.
No, I didn't. I said if he was in this organization,
but that's the thing.
He can work
That's the thing. This is why I don't believe him to be a franchise quarterback, because if he's not going to be with the Vikings next year, if he goes to a different situation when you don't have Justin.
Well, if he
Jefferson,
goes to a bottom feeder again, you know where you're going.
Well, but this is
but
kind
maybe he's learned enough now from San Francisco and here
that
he can move forward.
This goes back to my original point of Kevin O'Connell may be doing a great job with quarterbacks who come in here, and I'm not going to take anything away from him. He has done a phenomenal job with quarterbacks here. But implying that if Sam Darnold walks out the door and he's no longer with Kevin O'Connell, and he's no longer with Justin Jefferson, and he's no longer with T.J. Hawkinson, then all of a sudden he may not be as good anymore. So, and this is the point I'm saying is, when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes, when you take away Tyreek Hill, what do the Chiefs do? They won 2 Super Bowls without him. It doesn't matter the weapons. When you have a guy like Josh Allen who went off for an absolute insane day today. Josh Allen doesn't have these top-tier wideouts to throw to.
No
what does
Diggs
he do?
Anymore.
I know everybody watching right now is thinking to themselves, well, not everybody can be Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. And I understand that, but guess what? That's what makes them franchise quarterbacks. When you have a guy when you think that you can draft J.J. McCarthy and supplant a guy like Sam Darnold going into next year, assuming that he's healthy, if J.J. McCarthy could come in here and give you a similar type of production that Sam Darnold did, then that doesn't necessarily make Sam Darnold a franchise quarterback. So are you going to pay him like a franchise quarterback?
I don't know. That's their question. My idea was to get him at a decent rate early in the season before this mushroom cloud developed, because now the mushroom cloud has developed. The whole NFL knows about the Minnesota Vikings.
It's a good problem to have. It's not a bad problem to have. This is a good problem to have, I think, for the Vikings. And listen.
Oh, I know. This is great, because how many times do we sit here for years going like, boy, we could use a quarterback.
If you're asking me right now, do I think that Sam Darnold needs to be back with this team next year? My answer is absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. I want to know what the cost is, of course.
Correct.
But my thought process is, how in the world could you not bring him back? It would be insane. If J.J. McCarthy has to sit another year, if Sam Darnold continues to play this way, so be it. If you're a Vikings fan, I don't care who's at quarterback. If you give me this type of production like I saw today, I don't care what his name is. I don't care what he looks like. Those are the numbers, and that's the type of production I want to see from my quarterback. So I think he absolutely has to be, I shouldn't say absolutely has to be brought back, but it absolutely needs to be a consideration and a discussion within the front office in terms of, we may be playing with fire if we just let him walk out the door for nothing.
Right, because, what if McCarthy goes through growing pains, as most rookie quarterbacks do? Yes, he'll be in a great system, and he'll be surrounded by great receivers, and he's had a year to learn and all of that, but it's kind of interesting. And for those who always say, oh, we're ripping on the Vikings for not blowing everybody out, congratulations. They did it today.
Yeah, they did it. I think today's performance was probably the most complete that we've seen since probably, week 3 against that Houston Texans game.
Yep.
I think today was just absolutely phenomenal. If you're looking from top to bottom, 8 for 12 on third down. Huge indication of how you're going to win the football game and turning points in the football game, converting on third down. Minnesota was able to do that today. Atlanta shot itself in the foot numerous times. 3 turnovers on the day, including that crucial fumble on the kick return when Minnesota just scored to go up 28-21, and Ray McLeod, who was having a great day up until that point, fumbles it away, changes the tide. Minnesota scores as a result to go up 2 touchdowns, and that was really kind of the story of the ball game. So they were a +2 today on the turnovers. +2 or +3 on the turnover differential? I think it was +2. +2 on the turnover differential today for Minnesota. Win the turnover battle, convert third down. Did a great job on both of those things. So congratulations to the Vikings for an all-around great performance. Defense did allow almost 500 yards of total offense, though.
Yes.
Almost 500 yards of total offense to Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons. I know that Kirk and everybody had to throw the ball a lot in the second half to try to play catch up and gain, try to get a home run play after home run play to try to get themselves back in the game. But Atlanta shot itself in the foot today, like I said. 12 penalties, 127 yards of penalties. That's a league high this season. So Vikings did a good job benefiting from that. The Falcons hurt themselves a lot. So
3 turnovers on the day. Two Cousins picks, and then that fumble.
+3 in the turnovers, not +2. So +3 in the turnover differential.
Right. And then the other thing was the holding penalty on a field goal attempt.
That was weird, and you don't see that often.
Defensive holding on a field. What are you doing? Why would you be holding someone?
Very bizarre. I don't know if I've seen a flag called for a defensive holding.
No, and then that gave the Vikings a first down, and they were able to score there too. So there was another window of opportunity. But I do have to applaud Atlanta and their decision to take the football right out of the gate.
Yeah, sure.
They said, you know what? We want to get Kirk out there. We want to set the tempo. We want to basically try and outscore you. And so we're taking the ball to start. They had that impressive opening drive where they went for it on 4th down, a couple of thirds and longs, and Cousins converted those. And it was a fantastic start. It was exactly what they wanted. But then it got sideways with the penalties and with the turnovers.
Yeah, I thought Atlanta, it was kind of I didn't think that Raheem Morris did a good job coaching the football game today. Outside of the opening series, in the second quarter, a couple of bizarre decisions when they were back to punt. Minnesota committed a penalty. So Atlanta.
And then it got to be a 4th and 2 or something.
Yeah, they sent the offense back out on the field on a 4th and short to try to draw Minnesota offside, and then they take the delay only to punt again. And then in the second quarter, late before the end of the half, you got goal to go from, I believe, the 2-yard line. It was very close. I get it. I'm not going to begrudge you, I guess, for kicking a field goal in that situation. It's still the second quarter. It's still a 1-score game, but you have an opportunity to go for it there and get in the end zone. I just felt that Atlanta played a little bit of scared football today.
Well, they did after that first drive when they said, no, we want the ball to start, because the logic of the National Football League is that you always want to defer and be the first one to have it in the second half.
Right. I just didn't think that Raheem Morris did a great job coaching the team today. Turnovers, penalties is absolutely an indication of whether or not you're a disciplined or undisciplined team. And like I said, this was a league high in terms of penalty yards from a team this season. 12 penalties, 127 yards. Undisciplined football from the Atlanta Falcons today. But the one area in terms of the Vikings in which I know you and I look for stuff to where things may not have gone right on a weekly basis. Last week, the Vikings gave up 5 sacks. This week, they give up 4 sacks. In the first half, Brian O'Neill did not have a great first half. Brian O'Neill was beat one-on-one in a situation where Atlanta only rushed 3 guys and gave up a sack. So the offensive line, yes, of course, losing Christian Darrisaw is going to hurt, obviously. The offensive line is a situation right now where I'm starting to pay attention a little more to. In all honesty, to watching the game today, probably about 40% of the time I watched where the ball went because I was watching the trenches.
Right.
The trenches is where I'm starting. My eyes are suddenly starting to go that way because am I starting to lose trust in this offensive line? I don't know if I'd go that far, but I'm starting to get a little nervous about it. 9 sacks in 2 games. Boy, you can't allow that to happen. That's
well, you're going to get him hurt. The odds of the quarterback getting hurt is huge when he's absorbing hits. And he got rocked a couple times. Mm-hmm. And Sam has been very durable this season. And there could have been a 5th sack on the long touchdown pass to Jefferson.
Right.
He did a heck of a job getting out of that pickle. And then the arm strength to throw that thing 40-some yards in the air down to Jefferson. I don't know what the secondary was doing back there. You got guys laying on the field on Addison's touchdown. You guys laying on the field on Jefferson's touchdown. We'll get into that with Pete Bursich later on just what kind of coverage they were trying to pull off back there. But, the elusiveness of Darnold is something that we've not seen out of this position. And it wasn't anything that we thought was a great asset of his when he first got here. And he's all of a sudden, though, really been able to keep an eye on what's going on in front of him, what's falling apart, and also to keep an eye downfield. Because usually when a pocket collapses, quarterback looks for a bailout, looks to dump it off short.
Sure.
He went gonzo both times, including that one to Jefferson.
This is the type of game, like you said a little bit earlier, this is the type of game I think that we've been waiting for, especially when it comes to Justin Jefferson. Now, for 7 weeks now, 6 weeks, it seems like this is the first time Justin Jefferson has found the end zone since week 7 in that game against the Lions when the Lions were here. It's almost like you're hammering at like a wooden board, and you're just kind of tapping it, but eventually it weakens, and then the dam breaks through. This was that kind of game for Justin Jefferson today. Monster outing from him. And in the early going, he was a non-factor in the first quarter. Didn't touch the balls until the second quarter. And again, for 2 or 3 straight weeks, we've been talking about on this podcast how even if he's not catching passes, he's still affecting the game. Well, how is he affecting the game? You see the type of production that Jordan Addison had in the first half. Not just the first half, but the entire game, really, to be honest. But in that first half in particular, when everybody is, again, so afraid of letting Justin Jefferson beat you that you're going to lose track of guys at times when you devote that much attention to one guy, and that opens things up for Jordan Addison, as we saw today. But Justin Jefferson coming through in a big way today. I'm sure that's got to be a feeling of relief for him as well, because he knows that winning is the most important thing. He is that type of athlete. He does not put himself above the team. But he's also the guy that knows how talented he is. And, numbers do matter at some point, and touchdowns do matter. And he scored twice today. It was good to see him get in the end zone and kind of reintroduce himself to everybody in the league today.
Well, like you said, he had said all the right things publicly, but you knew this was starting to eat at him, that he is not being the focal point. Well, he's not getting the opportunities. That's fine, and that's, again, though, where Darnold went off the rails. We talked about it last week. His last 3 interceptions were on balls that he was trying to get to Jefferson.
Force-feeding him,
Yeah, trying to jam it in there. Now they said, hey, just relax, take what's there, I'm assuming is what O'Connell told him. We'll just work with what we have. If they all want to sit on Justin, we're going to have to stay away from him for a bit. And Jefferson was fine with that, but you saw it in the second half of last week's game. Jefferson came to life. They finally started saying, okay, we've got to use him. We've got to throw these 50-50 balls at him. Let's get him going again. He had a huge second half, ended up with 99 yards last week. This week, he's finally back over 100 yards, gets into the end zone. And you can tell post-game, if you want to watch it, you can find it on our website. Look at the smile on him. It is ear to ear, and he admitted that it's a great relief to finally get back in the end zone again. So you push it. He understands it. He said all the right things. But it was gnawing at him.
You want to know what the more remarkable thing to me is, as you and I were just talking about that just now. Like we said, this is the first time since week 7 that Justin Jefferson has gotten back in the end zone. Normally, when Justin Jefferson scores touchdowns, this team is winning games.
Right.
Justin Jefferson wasn't scoring touchdowns for a good while. And what did the team do? They still won games.
And I think that's what pacified him through this.
Yeah, I mean, they still won games, and that's the mark of a very solid team, a well-rounded, well-balanced team. I'm not saying that you don't want your number one guy to be the number one guy, and that doesn't matter. Of course it matters. It absolutely matters. But I think we have come to see with this team all season long that there are numerous weapons all over the field. It's not just one guy. It doesn't have to be just one guy. Today just happened to be a day where your number 1 and your number 2 wide receiver both go off in the same game. That's certainly a welcome sign for the fans and for the team. But, just because Justin Jefferson might not have a great day statistically, in the past we might be thinking, well, this team is going to be out of the game then.
Right.
That's not the case with this team moving forward, and that's a great sign for the Vikings.
All right, now what's left ahead is 4 games. Vikings still with a shot to win the division, although Green Bay didn't do them any favors last Thursday when Detroit came out with a victory. Next up, a Monday night affair with the Bears. That'll be here at US Bank Stadium. Then Seattle out there on the West Coast. Then you finish up with the Packers here, and then the showdown, if it stays and works that way, with Detroit. So do you like the way this schedule sets up? I do, because of the fact that it keeps the pressure on this team going into the playoffs. That I don't think the intensity of these games will ramp up any more than they will in those final 2 games compared to what you're going to get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that the Vikings are already battle-tested to this point. Every team is battle-tested through, 13 weeks into the season, 14 weeks into the season. Everything comes down to the last 2 weeks. We know this at this stage. Green Bay took a hit losing to Detroit the other day. Doesn't mean they're going to be out of it by any means, even though they do have 2 losses to the Lions now. That's going to hurt their chances of winning the division. But they're certainly,
I think that's done for them, unless Detroit really craters.
Well, and I don't think Detroit will crater, but Detroit does have a very difficult schedule the rest of the way.
Yep.
They got a difficult schedule the rest of the way. Their defense is awfully banged up. So Detroit, even though they're sitting there at 12-1 right now,
may not be the same team.
It might not. And sometimes we talk about this every single year. It's not about who you play, it's when you play them. So even though that Lions offense, I would not want to be going up against that Lions offense any day of the week. That's the area of the team where I think that's where they're going to get carried moving forward. But I think the schedule shapes up nicely for sure for Minnesota. You have 2 games at home starting next week, like you said, against the Bears on Monday night. But that's always been a game, no matter who's up and who's down, over the last handful of years when the Bears come to town, they have tended to give the Vikings problems. We have seen this on more than one occasion, no matter how poorly the Bears' record may be at that point of the season. We saw it last year on a Monday night. We saw it a couple of years ago in the last game of the regular season.
All they had to do was win, and they're in.
Exactly. So I'm not looking at that game thinking to myself, oh, this is automatic. This is going to absolutely happen. But forgive me for overlooking Chicago for a minute.
Just 3 weeks ago, it went to overtime.
Seattle in 2 weeks. Seattle won today at Arizona, cushioning themselves a little bit more in the NFC West. Seattle has been a nightmare of a place for the Vikings to play in and year out.
Yes.
That's a game where I'm looking at right now, and I'm thinking to myself, Minnesota could be 12-2 going into that game, and yet it almost feels like a little bit of a show-me kind of game. Hostile environment, place that has been in Minnesota. I know a lot of players probably on this year's team may not have been there in years past. It's a different team, I get it. But there's just a stigma about the Vikings going into Seattle and trying to win games there that has been awfully difficult. It's going to be, like I said, a hostile environment. Seattle still with everything to play for. It's going to be a ruckus atmosphere. But I'm looking forward to that game. That game, I'm eager to see what happens in Seattle in a couple of weeks.
All right, the Vikings today said goodbye to Parker Romo. They reactivated Will ROKKR. It's a kind of crazy situation. Parker Romo did so well here for the Vikings.
Yeah.
Way better than anybody thought. Yeah. Also, the backup long snapper, he got jettisoned earlier in the week as Andrew DePaula came back, so he's back. He missed one today.
Yeah.
Second thoughts? I'm just kidding. Yeah. I'm kidding. The kid's perfect. Don't worry.
He's had a.
I can see him going, are you kidding me?
He's had a terrific rookie season, but it only takes once. It only takes once in a tie game, or when you're up 1 trying to extend it to 4, or you're down 2 trying to take the lead. It only takes one to hit the upright or go wide, and you're thinking to yourself, can we rely on this guy? The doubt always seems to creep in the moment you see a miss. But when it comes to Will ROKKR, I'm not concerned about him at all. I think this kid's got ice water running through his veins. I don't think one miss today is going to bother him any.
Correct. All right, Kirk Cousins. It was his return. Were you surprised Viking fans booed him at the start of the game when he was introduced, when he took to the field? I could see when the game started and they turned up the noise and Kirk goes like this, and that just encourages him more to yell. I thought the fans were fantastic today. I think they really did their part. You knew during the week Brian Flores, in his availability, was encouraging the fans to really bring it to another level, and I think they did that today, trying to rattle Kirk. But overall, Cousins, he didn't get a touchdown, threw 2 picks today. Is he still in that funk he was coming into this? Or do you think there's signs for Atlanta? Because we may have another encounter with Kirk Cousins. If they get rolling again and win that South Division, they could be the first playoff opponent for the Vikings if they win the NFC South and we stay where we are, because if the playoffs started today, blah, 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 we would do this and that.
Right. If the playoffs did end today, it would be Tampa. With
right,
Tampa
because they took it away, but there's still a shot for them because they have the tiebreaker over Tampa because they beat them twice already.
Let me answer your original question. I was not really all that surprised that the fans booed Kirk Cousins today. However, in my mind, I thought to myself, boo him for what exactly? What are we booing Kirk Cousins for? If any of the Vikings fans right now can come and tell me what you're booing him for, if I had to take a guess as to what it was, it's, yeah, you were good enough, I guess, at times, but you never really got us over the hump, so we're still going to be bitter about that, even though you were a productive quarterback during your time here. I guess I'll boo you for that. It feels a little weird to me because, he left as a free agent. He didn't get traded. He didn't demand to be out of here. The Vikings made him an offer. It wasn't an offer that was good enough, and Atlanta made him a better offer. He took the better offer. So I think everybody at home watching right now, if you were made an offer that's better than the offer that you currently have at your current employer, I think you would do the very same thing. So I've never, Jim, you and I have talked about this extensively. I understand the frustration that comes with the Kirk Cousins experience in terms of how he shows us at times. I could see it. Oh, there it is. But it almost feels like one step forward, one step back every week. And he was never really the guy that could really get you over the hump. But I never understood Vikings fans, the vitriol that I saw from some Vikings fans. Not all of them, but some of them. The vitriol directed at Kirk Cousins. I understand it's the most polarizing position in sports.
Yes.
But Kirk Cousins was a very productive quarterback on the field when he was here. He was a very productive citizen in the state of Minnesota when he was here as well. I don't think Kirk Cousins did anything at any point, save for a couple of games, and I think Atlanta was one of the games a few years back where he threw 3 interceptions in the first half or whatever it was. I don't think Kirk Cousins did anything to ever warrant a negative reaction the way I saw today in the pregame. That didn't really sit right with me. I understand it. He's the opposing quarterback now.
I'm hoping that the bulk of it was in fun.
Yeah, and I'm sure it is, and I'm sure it is. That's fine. I have no problem with that.
Right.
I have no problem with that. But you and I both know the begrudging whispers about Kirk Cousins that would go on behind his back over the last handful of years.
It was all the money. It was all the money. That was the big argument. We had the arguments here. You have that much money. I mean, that's what Mike Zimmer railed on about, that we're tying up too much money in a position that we can't afford to do and have a complete team that's going to take a run at a Super Bowl. And you look at teams that had gotten there, that have continual success and run, and their quarterbacks, are not the top dollar guys. That seems to be the current MO of GMs around the league, is if you get a rookie guy on a rookie deal and then you can spend money and build around him, a la San Francisco with Purdy, you're paying nothing for that kind of a quarterback. The Packers now with Jordan Love, they have their window. Yes, Mahomes obviously makes a boatload of cash, but he is in that different stratosphere. And still, he takes less than he could too, right? He helps out. But I think the big thing with Cousins is I don't think the Vikings were ever going to bring him back.
No, I don't think so
I
either.
think that was just lip service, what O'Connell and Kwesi said last year going into free agency. Oh, we love Kirk. He's a great guy. Love him to be here, blah, blah, blah. We sure hope it works out. They weren't going to sign him.
No,
I agree. They were just saying that to get the market going so he would find something else so they could move on. They wanted their chance to put their fingerprints all over this franchise, and that was by drafting J.J. McCarthy.
And what a script that was written today in terms of the contrast of where this team was and where this team is now, with and without Kirk Cousins and him coming in with his new team and just the absolute horrendous streak that he's on right now. I think last week, you heard me say, I think Atlanta would have to be crazy to turn their offense over to a rookie this late in the season with the division still in play for them. I think that would be just a crazy thing to do. But over the last 4 weeks, I'm not sure how you can continue to trot out Kirk Cousins and inspire the Atlanta offense. Yeah, again, like we said, almost 500 yards of total offense today. I get it.
Yeah, he threw for 344.
2 more interceptions today. Both of them were bad. The first one was a little bit of a hesitation, still forced the ball in a window. The second one, I couldn't tell if Pitts ran the wrong route or if Kirk just put the wrong touch on the ball. But that ball wasn't anywhere close to Kyle Pitts. I know Byron Murphy made a great play there.
Just ridiculous.
A great play.
Looked like an outfielder.
I know.
Just snagged a fly ball in center field.
He made a great play on that interception, but that's another poorly thrown ball. And you cannot have your quarterback set your team back, and that is what Kirk Cousins is doing over the last 4 weeks. He is setting them back, and I don't know how much longer the Falcons can afford to let him figure it out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But we don't really care because we're done with the Falcons.
Not the Vikings' problem anymore.
Correct. That is the beauty of this. All right. We wrap it like this always. Mm-hmm. Where could we see this? If you just stumbled across, you saw a clip on Facebook, you want to follow this every week, you can subscribe, right? How do people do that?
You can find us on the Fox 9 YouTube channel. You can also find us on Fox Local as well. And if you're listening on the go, find it anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. You can find us there, Vikings Now podcast.
And if you'd like to personally praise Pierre for his takes, well, you can send him on and say, hey, there's a chair here for you. Where can people find you to personally thank you for your insights into Vikings football?
At the Nouj Fox 9 on X, Nouj, and you can find me on Instagram as well, at _Nouj.
All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks for watching. We will see you next week. And hopefully this was positive enough for you people, because I am positive that this team is going to the postseason. They have got it done, 42-21 over the Falcons.
Rams did win today, so we are going to have to wait another week, too, to make it official for this team. We're still waiting to officially get into the postseason picture, but one step closer.
I will make that declaration here right now. They will get in.
You're a gambling man, Jim, I tell you.
Putting all the chips on the table. All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks so much for watching, and, of course, check us out on Vikings postgame tonight, 10:35 Sunday nights. Pete Bursich joins us, gives you great insights, and he tells the truth. That's the beauty of what Pete does.
Almost a little too honest sometimes.
But that's great, because that's what you want. You want a clear, not rah-rah view of your team, and Pete gives you that on postgame tonight. And then, of course, you can check us out during the week as well, 5, 6, 9, 10, 7. We've got you clocked.
Round the clock at this point with how well this team is playing.
Correct. All right, that'll do it. Thank you.